starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We are going to be talking about our dynamics path with Epimatic. We know that this is something that everybody wants to know about, so we're going to move quickly into this here. Just a couple pieces of housekeeping before we get started. First, we do record this and all of our webinars, so if you want to watch this again or if you want somebody else in your organization to see it, all you need to do is log onto our website, which is innovia.com, and that recording will be posted for you by the end of the day. Also, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into that question box. We will get them called out and answered for you. So without any further ado, Rob, we will hand it right over to you.
Thanks, Abby. Hi, everyone, and thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules to attend our webinar today. My name is Rob Hansen. I'm with Dynamics Path, and today I plan to show you two of our add-ons for Microsoft Dynamics NAV, Document Path and Report Path. I'm hoping to keep the initial presentation on the short side, as I won't be covering all of the product features, and hopefully this will allow time at the end for any questions to jump into some of those other features where interest might lie. So before I get too far in, I'll mention I recently switched to a MacBook for the first time in my life. So this is the first webinar I've done on it. If anything goes glitchy, I will blame the Mac. Document Path and Report Path extend NAV's capabilities for sending documents to external parties, so that would be customers and vendors, as well as internal management on the Report Path side. I'll get to the specifics of the two products shortly, but first I just want to give you a quick overview of who we are. So Dynamics Path is a provider of ISV add-on products to extend NAV capabilities. We've released 4 products to date, all of which are well architected and well designed to build on NAV capabilities. So one thing we really try not to do is reinvent the wheel and build a whole bunch of new stuff. We like to take the capabilities NAV has and just build on top of those and extend them in reasonable ways. And our ability to do that is really driven by 15 years experience working with the product. We have very deep knowledge of it. So we know how to do things the right way. And at some add-on products at times, not to knock anybody, but there are some out there where if you look at the code underneath, it's a little bit ugly. So we're very proud of our designs, and they do work well. So our full product suite consists of 4 products currently. Document Path, which I'll be showing today for sending outgoing documents to customers and vendors. Report Path, which I'll also be showing, which streamlines generating and distributing reports internally. Dimension Path could be a webinar all on its own, so we won't be talking about it today, but it does enhance NAV's capabilities around dimensions, including the ability to set up multiple legal entities in a single NAV company. And finally, Budget Path, which is an add-on on top of Dimension Path. Budget Path adds active budget controls to prevent budget overruns. So rather than just catching things through reporting, transactions can actually be blocked if they're going to cause budget issues. So for today, we'll focus on 2 of the products, Document Path and Report Path. Document Path is our most sold add-on, which again provides advanced document sending capabilities. We provide sending functions for the full range of core documents in NAV on both the sales and purchase side, as well as service management. So quotes through to orders, shipments, invoices, credit memos, again, the full range of documents. The product will handle very complex sending scenarios to route documents to multiple recipients if needed, using multiple methods, so email, fax, hard copy. The product also enables users to set up message templates with merge fields and additional attachments such as terms and condition sheets or engineering drawings. And its biggest selling point probably is the batch sending capability it adds, not just for the documents I mentioned, but for things such as customer statements, where Document Path can provide copies of all open invoices along with the statements, and also electronic payment remittance advices. And for users that are on Serenic Payroll, payroll stubs can be sent electronically. So the need for document path comes from gaps or limitations in base NAV. We're huge fans of NAV. We've worked with it for years. We love all it can do, but there are some areas in which it can do more. So document sending is one of them. Versions of NAV prior to 2015, there was really no easy way to send documents electronically. It was a pretty manual process. Save the document to a PDF, open an email, attach it, fill in all the details. So it was a bit painful, and that was the need we originally set out to address. In newer versions, they have added some document sending functionality, but it's pretty limited. There's not a good way to configure multiple different sending scenarios for different documents for the same customer to handle multiple recipients. And then again, the batch sending process is something that's lacking even today. And probably the biggest gap are those advanced documents I talked about. 80% of the product sales are generally driven by a need in one of these areas. So again, sending customer statements, remittance advices for electronic payments, or Serenic payroll stubs. Those are the capabilities that we add through Document Path. As for why to choose Document Path over other solutions, there are a number of solutions on the market for sending documents. Our first selling point really is the capabilities that we offer versus competing solutions. So there's not another solution we're aware of that provides the same capabilities, across the full range of documents we handle with the advanced documents as well, or that can handle the complex scenarios that we can. We do have an easy, low-cost implementation as well. Some other products may take 2 or 3 days to get in place. Our solution is all within NAV, so there's no outside stuff to configure, and we have an automated tool to get it into any NAV database. So where other solutions may take a day or half a day of developer time just to get them in, we have a tool that generally gets it done within an hour. So there's a product cost to purchase the software, but the services cost is generally quite low compared to the competitors. And the last point, it's a very proven solution. So we have, I believe we're around 70 installations at this point. The partners that have sold it have all returned to continue selling it, which says a lot. If they have a bad experience with an add-on, they'll generally not come back and move on to something better. But Document Path has definitely had a lot of repeat business that way. So I'll be showing some of those functions shortly, but just to finish off the PowerPoint side of things first, I want to highlight some of the capabilities of the other solution I'll show as well, which is Report Path. So Report Path adds a My Reports part to all role centers within NAV. And again, this is more for streamlining the reporting internally. Reports you run within NAV, send other people in the organization. It's a simple product, but it adds some very powerful capabilities, including the ability to save NAV report filters and options under multiple saved names. So if you, on any list in NAV, if you've used the functionality to save, you filter the list, then you save the view under a name, we provide that same capability for reports. So if you have the same report that you run multiple different ways regularly, and the account schedule report is a perfect example. Generally, the accountants will run that report for different column and row layouts, different settings, every month end, even more often than that. So we allow those different configurations to be saved under a name for quick recall. We provide the ability to use dynamic filters for dates, so I'll show you how that works. That just lets you set up a saved name that's not locked down to a very specific date range, but a dynamic range that will change over time. The product also provides a front-end reporting interface for queries within NAV. So really, this is something that lets power users or your NAV partner create new reports very quickly that run right within NAV and output to Excel. And finally, all those functions I just talked about, Report Path provides a way to then send those packages of reports, so you can group them into groups and send a package of reports out via email or through a scheduled recurring delivery. So one example of this would be to set up a package of management reports that might go out every Monday morning ahead of a weekly meeting. So I have an example I'll show for that in a bit. And really, report pass, it's all about just eliminating manual steps that you typically take over and over when it comes to reporting. So I tried to keep that very short. I find those types of presentations boring myself. So you sat through that, and I'll now switch over to the NAV side where I will show document path and report path. So you should now see a NAV role center. I'm using NAV 2013 R2 to show document path just because it's where we have most of our demo data. The product does support all versions of NAV from NAV 2009 R2 up to 2017. So once it is integrated into your database, and again, that's a very automated, quick process, you'll have a new document path menu with some of our functions and setup areas. If I open up the document code list, you can see here the supported documents that we are able to send. So as I mentioned earlier, we cover the full range of documents from quotes through to orders, invoices, credit memos, shipments, receipts. And the list is longer than what you see here. You'll see we have a flag to indicate if the document is valid on the sales side and the purchase side. So the documents here that work on both sides, such as sales and purchase orders, that's two different documents that will be sent. We do also support service management documents if you use service management, so service quotes, orders, invoices, same thing. And then those advanced documents I talked about, the customer statement, issued reminders, EFT remittance advices, and the Serenic payroll pay stubs. So I'm going to jump over to a customer card to show you some of the setup. I'm not covering the full setup today. It's not intended to be a training session. So I'll keep it pretty high level and just hit some of the key areas so you can kind of see how the product works, how it's structured. And again, at the end, Abby will take any questions through the chat panel, and I'll be happy to answer those. So as I said, I will open the customer card for customer 10,000. You'll see here, once the product is in place, there's a new document sending tab on the customer card. The same tab gets added to the vendor card and employee card. So this is the place where the various documents are configured to indicate how they should be sent and who they should go to. So I have a series of lines that I've set up here just for some of the customer related documents. The send method on each line indicates how the document will go out. So again, the options are email, fax, hard copy, or save to a network folder. Keep in mind, there are a bunch of other fields here I'm not talking about. There is a very flexible setup structure here. So rarely do we ever come up with a scenario that we can't handle. And in the past, when we have, we've done our best to expand the product to get it in there. So the target recipient determines who the document will go to. A few options that you have here. You can, in the case of email, you can manually enter the addresses right onto the line, as I've done for a few of these. You can link the line to the master record email address. So I've done that on this line here, which automatically ties the value in so that you only have to change it in one place. You can also route the document to a specific contact if you use contacts within NAV. And if you send the document to different people at the same organization or customer, you can tell the product to look at whatever contact is specified on the document and send it to that person accordingly. You also see with the manual entry of addresses onto the line, you can enter multiple addresses, semicolon separated, and we do support CC and BCC addresses as well. The other thing you might notice here, or I'll point out to you, you can have multiple lines for the same document. So I have a couple examples where I've set that up. When document path goes to send a document, it will simply look at whatever is set up here and do everything that you've told it to. So one example I have is the shipment document where I've said, at the time of posting, send the document out via email as a shipment notification. and also print a hard copy to go in the box as a packing slip. For the invoice document, I've set it up to go out through email and also to save to a folder on, in this case, my local drive, but it could be a network folder, which will save a copy of the document in PDF form wherever you tell it. If I scroll over a bit, you'll see there's a field on each line for a message template code. So these are templates that users set up themselves that define the subject line, body text, the name of the attachment. I won't go through that full setup now, but you have full control over how the messages come out. And when I actually send a document, you'll see an example of that. And the templates do support merge fields. So if you want the, in the case of an invoice, if you want the PDF to be named with the invoice number included in the name, you can do that sort of thing using our merge fields. So the setup side is generally just configuring how things should go out and setting up those message templates to define the structure of the messages. Once that is done, the functions themselves are very simple. So if I jump over to posted sales invoices, the product adds some new page actions. So these are both on all list pages as well as the individual document card pages. So I'll just work from the list for now. So if I select an invoice for customer 10,000, I can just use the send using setup action to send the document based on the customer setup. And I get an option here if I want to open it to review before sending. Once you've done your setups and you're confident that the templates look good, you don't need to review anything before it goes out. It can just directly send. For now, I will open it up just so we can see something come up. So the system generates the PDF, generates the email. So there it is with our invoice attached. That's just the base NAV invoice document showing in this case. And as you can see, we do support rich HTML formatting. So if you want to get fancy, you can do all the stuff with logos and signatures and that sort of thing. So that's a simple document sending action. I'll just close it for now rather than sending it out. The other thing we have from the list page is an option to send a batch of documents using each customer's setup. So this enables the full batch of documents, whatever is shown in the list here, to be sent with a single simple action. So one example, you might filter the list for all sales invoices posted today and then send them out using setup, which gives a bit different prompt, similar to the last one, but you get some different options when you're sending in batch mode. You can have it go through and send each document out as a separate email. So basically the same as if you clicked each one and sent it using setup. You can consolidate into a single email per customer with each invoice as a separate PDF attachment, or you can consolidate into a single message with a single PDF containing all of their invoices. There are a bunch of other features to document path, but again, today I want to keep things relatively high level and move along quickly. I'm going to show one other piece just because it's been one of our most popular features, and that is the function to send customer statements. So this tool will let you send statements to all customers or whatever set of customers you filter the list down to. It'll run through all the customers, generate each statement, and send it out however you've defined and set up. So any of the hard copy ones will spit out on a printer, email will go out that way, fax will go out that way. So if you can get your customers moved on to one of the electronic methods, and you do send statements every month, it can be a fairly substantial savings postage-wise versus sending them out as hard copies. A couple other things the function does have that have been very well received. We provide an option to include copies of all open invoices with each statement. So that just cuts down on the admin time with people calling back saying they never got an invoice or they lost it, can you resend it? Just gets all the info they need out in one shot. And we do have functionality built in as well. You know, if you're running 1,000 statements, if the power goes out partway through or something crashes, this process will be able to resume where it left off without having to do anything too fancy. So again, that's been one of the probably the feature that's driven the most sales for the product, and then the other the EFT remittance advices and payroll stubs are the other two that have been pretty big. So that's a very quick overview of what Document Path does. I'm now going to jump over to show Report Path before we wrap up and take any questions. And again, there are a number of other features here. If you hear anything I've mentioned that you want to ask about, go ahead, and I can jump back over at the end to show some of those other features. So moving over to our Report Path demo database, you can see the My Reports pane that I talked about earlier. So each of the role centers, it's similar to Document Path. We have a process that will automatically integrate this product into any database, and it will add this My Reports part to all of the role centers. So regardless of which role center your users are on, they will have this new part available to them. So each user manages this themselves. I'll just expand it a bit here. So users are able to create whatever groups they want for their reports, name them however they want. Once they do that, they can start to define saved reports to list under these groups. So in this case, I've already done some setup. I have some different reports I use regularly here. I'll just open up the definition for one of these existing ones so you can see how it is set up. So if I go over to saved reports, I can create new ones here. I'm just going to open up my revenue last week saved report. And if I edit that, so I can see that when I created this, it is the account schedule report in NAV. I gave it whatever description I wanted. The saved reports can be private or available to everybody. And I see here that yes, there are some filters and options defined, so I can take a look at what those are. So here I've picked a specific account schedule name and a column layout name, and you'll see I've also put in a date filter. But at the time of saving reports, when you specify a date filter, you get the option to change that so it's not a hard-coded filter for this date. And I can show that by going into the dynamic filters. So when I created this saved report, I put in a date range of January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015. But I then told Report Path to override that. Anytime the report is run, ignore these dates and instead use some dynamic formulas that we provide. In this case, to take last week's starting date up to last week's ending date. And that enables the report to always have that dynamic kind of performance to show revenue from last week. So once I've created a saved report and added it to a group on my reports, it's a quick double click to call up the report at any time. So again, the real value is something like the account schedule or any report where you run it multiple different ways regularly. You can save those all as different saved names and open them up, with a quick click at any time without having to change the filters every time. The other thing the product will do once you've defined reports or groups of reports is give users tools to easily distribute them. So if if the president requests a certain report regularly or a package of reports, those can be defined, and then we do have a tool to distribute or email a group of reports. So in this case, I have some weekly reports that somebody wants to see. I can select it, say I want to distribute it through email. I won't go in the full setup, but you are able to define distribution groups of people to select to send the reports to. We have a simple email template functionality, so it's not as advanced as Document Path, but it just lets a simple body text and subject line be defined. So this function, if I were to proceed, would generate the set of 4 reports and send them out to the distribution group that I set up. Report Path also provides I mentioned some reporting capabilities built around NAV queries. So it gets into the technical side a little bit, but queries are something that anybody who's a super user in NAV has a knowledge of tables. They can pretty easily set up queries to pull some data out of NAV, but Microsoft didn't give a good way to then, they created these query structures that you can define, but not a good way to actually use them to generate a report. So we do add that capability. Again, I won't go into the full setup, but this top 10 customer sales, this is one of those reports that's built on top of a query. So if I double click it, we just use Excel as a mechanism to output the query results to. So again, this makes it easy for knowledgeable users to, in an hour, create some reports that can be generated right within NAV and open up in Excel. So the last thing I want to point out on report paths, everything I've talked about, it streamlines things, gives you ways to quickly run reports and generate them and send them out, but it's all very manual. The product does also provide a way to schedule reports to go out automatically. So again, in the case of my weekly reports, if we have a management meeting every Monday morning, I can schedule that group of reports to go out to a distribution group of all managers, set up a template, tell it to go out, every week at 4 a.m. on Monday morning. People show up, the set of reports is in their inbox, then they can, print those off or bring them with them and show up at the meeting ready to go. So it's a simple add-on, but it just makes life with NAV a lot better, which is our tagline. Just make simply better NAV is what we try to make. So that concludes my quick overview of the two products, and I will turn it back over to Abby to see if anyone has any questions.
Fantastic. We do have a couple of questions here, Rob. Here's our first one. For document path, are any changes to reports required? If we've customized our documents, will the product support them?
Yeah, absolutely. Just jump back over. So, and it's something I should have mentioned. Some of the competing solutions require small customizations to be made to reports for them to work with the product. With document path, you don't have to change anything you do today. However, documents come out when you print them today. They're going to come out the same way whether you've customized them or not through document path.
Okay, great. Our next question, for report path, are we able to schedule custom reports for delivery that we had Innovia create for us?
Yep, for sure. There's no limitation. So on the report path side, if I go into saved reports, if I were to go in and create a new saved report to add to the list, the first thing it does, I'll just say I want an existing NAV report, not a query. When I go to pick the report name, this brings up the entire list of NAV reports. So any custom ones that have been created for you will show up here. You can do everything I talked about with them, no limitations there.
Here's our next question, Rob. For document path, do we need to go through and manually create sending setup lines for all of our customers, or is there a way to have it just use the email address on the customer records?
Yeah, that goes back to our tools to quickly get up and running. So yes, in the end, if I just jump to customer card, in the end, you do need to get these document sending lines set up. But if you have existing data like an email address on the customer card that is good and you want to route documents to it, we do provide a tool to automatically create sending setups. So for example, if you wanted to tell the product, run through all my customers and for the invoice document, automatically create sending setups linked to the master record email address, this tool would do that. The other way that if it's not as simple as the email address on the customer record being used, maybe you have data outside of NAV in an Excel file or something. That's where the rapid start tool can easily be used to import lines into that document sending table. And that's something Innovia could certainly help with.
Okay, great. Our next question, can you show how the electronic payment remittance advices work in Document Path?
Yep, pretty simple. And it's always been a bit of a disconnect in NAV. So if I just jump over to the payment journal. So electronic payments are great. NAV provides the functionality to transmit the file to the bank and make the payments happen. But the product has never had a good way to communicate out to your vendors what you've actually paid. You either have to print off the hard copy document and mail it out, or scan it, or do something. And that's the gap that we filled here. So your electronic payment process, you would go through it the same as you do today, no changes. The only thing we do is add a function once you have your journal with all your electronic payments. Typically, you would export it, transmit it to the bank, make sure everything's okay, and then you just run our function to send remittance advices, which will, again, however you've configured each vendor, whether it's hard copy or email, it'll run through all the lines in the journal and send out those remittance advices, just so they know, which invoices you've paid.
All right. Our last question here, Rob. Is there a way to attach additional files when we send documents using Document Path?
Yeah, there are a couple different ways. So one option is if it's kind of a fixed file, so something that doesn't change too often. So couple examples I use for that, and I'll jump into the message templates for a second here. So these are the templates that define the structure of the outgoing messages, and I believe my purchase order template, yeah. So this is a good example here. If you have a terms and conditions sheet that you want to send out with every purchase order, there's a spot on the message template. So this is the template I set up for sending purchase orders out. You can see some of the merge fields here, and there's an easy tool to find out what those are. There's a tab down here for additional attachments. So this is a spot where you can list as many additional documents as you want to attach every time a purchase order goes out. By default, if it's a PDF, our product will actually merge it right into the main PDF. So in the case of this terms and conditions sheet, with the default setup, every PO that goes out would have this page added to the end, listing terms and conditions. If you want it to be attached as a separate file, there is a flag to force that to happen. So that function can be used for, again, terms and condition sheets, which continue for a long time. If you had a promotion you were running on the sales side, you might want to include a brochure on a promotion for the, all invoices that go out for the next month. You can do that sort of thing. The other piece we do have, and I think I mentioned one example earlier, we have a function on each message template where you can tell our product if there are any linked files to the document. So this is just standard NAV record links. Do you want those included when the document goes out? So the default is no, but you can say, yes, I want to include them as additional attachments, or append them directly to the primary PDF file. So the one example I have of that, we have a couple customers on their purchase orders, they attach engineering drawings that the vendor needs to see. So they attach those as record links, and then they just use the function to say include those when the PDF goes out, and that will do it.
Well, awesome, Rob. That is the end of our questions. I just want to remind everybody that we did record this session. So if you want to watch it again, you want somebody else in your organization to be able to see it, we will have it posted to our website by the end of the day. And of course, that website is innovia.com. And Rob, thank you so much for your presentation for us today.
Thank you for coordinating it, Abby.
All right, thanks everyone, and we will see you on our next webinar.